Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Collecting Vintage Unopened podcast. My name is Brandon Stewart. This is a podcast devoted to discussing anything and everything in regards to the collecting of vintage, unopened sports and non-sports cards. And tonight I have a very special guest, Calvin Arnold, who is the consignment director for Robert Edward Auctions. So thank you so much for joining the podcast tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Brandon. This is great.
Well, no, absolutely. No, I'm very excited to be able to chat with you about some of your collection and how you got into collecting unopened. Why don't we start there? How did you get into collecting unopened, and what is your background in the hobby?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like anybody else, I mean, I started when I was a kid collecting. So I was about 8 years old when I first started collecting, which is in the mid 70s, which is quite some time ago. And from there, I collected for about 10 years, graduated high school, and then tried to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I knew I always loved the hobby, loved sports, loved sports cards, loved collecting, and I was fortunate to come across a local card shop that was looking to hire people, and I went to work there. So I mean, that's kind of how this whole thing started. So I've been in the business since 1985.
Oh, that's awesome. And so how did you, what was your road to collecting unopened? Did you start collecting just cards, or what was your process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like most kids, again, I mean, collecting cards is the entry point to most people's collections, because it's something that you could go to any, local store, card shop, liquor store. I mean, pretty much anything I did chores wise, I would want to be paid in cards, or at least given money to go get cards. So yeah, I mean, I started collecting cards and building sets and,
Mhm.
doing the things that the kids would normally do with cards, trading the cards, flipping the cards, screwing around with them. So collecting my favorite players, getting the cards that had, my favorite players' stats, because again, we didn't have the internet. So that's how, as a kid, that's how we learned. So from there, I mean, I think it just grew into other aspects of the hobby, and one of those being unopened. I mean, I loved unopened. As I started picking it up, I'd buy it from Price Club or Sam's Club. Again, local card shops, I'd buy some packs. Ice cream truck would come around. I'd be able to get the previous year's wax packs at a discount. So I was like, wow, this guy doesn't know what he has, So I was pretty excited about that. And to me, it was more about the mystery of what was inside that pack than actually opening the pack and getting the cards. So a lot of times I would just leave them unopened. Of course, sometimes I would relent and open a few packs of the previous year or previous couple of years just to see what I would get. But a lot of times, as we know, opening packs, we're just not getting the star cards that we want because you have such a huge set. So like they don't come as often as you want them. I would just leave them. I would leave them closed and leave them unopened. Unbeknownst that that this was a growing aspect of the hobby, and I think that the values started to go up and over time as well. So that's really kind of how it started for me.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, you were definitely before your time, because I think a lot of people just didn't have the foresight to do that.
Yeah, I mean, back then, again, like, in the 80s, we're talking about a hobby that is vastly different than it is today, right? I mean, we're talking more of a collectible thing than it is, from a money-driven standpoint. So,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Now it seems more and more, not just money, but big money, especially for
yeah,
unopened.
really, really big money. So,
So I wanted to discuss a little bit about. I'm going to get to your role at REA, and we can check
sure.
out the current auction at REA. And I have a few questions about how REA auctions work and things like that. But I wanted to ask a little bit about the focus of your unopened collection. And or do you have any favorite players you focus on, or do you have a favorite team you like to focus on, or is it really just anything vintage?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, I think I'm still trying to define my focus for the most part. I mean, I just love the aspect of unopened. So whenever I see something really cool, I tend to gravitate towards it and pick it up. I mean, it can be anything. I mean, I just recently picked up a few more 1988, 89 O-Pee-Chee hockey rack packs. I mean, that for most guys, that's fairly modern. It's really not that exciting, but for me, talking to some of these hockey guys and understanding how difficult and how rare those rack packs are. And that, primarily, I think they were mostly just distributed to Toys R Us around the country. That's something that intrigues me and is really cool. So I'll pick up something like that. But primarily I try to focus on 70s, pre-1978 unopened boxes, star rack packs, star cello packs. I'm currently working on a 74 unopened cello box where I only need 3 packs for completion now, and I'll have a 74 cello box. So I'll have a run of cellos from 74 all the way up to 1980. So I really try to stay in that lane, but as you probably are well aware, this hobby has a lot of cool, interesting things. And so it really becomes a difficult chore to try to just stay focused in one area.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's maddening sometimes. It's maddening. And reminding yourself, hey, you've got some cool stuff. You don't necessarily need this particular item right now.
Right. I think sometimes it's really about enjoying what you have in your collection, before you, buy something else. Like, we can always chase the next thing, right? The next thing is always the great thing. But realistically, if you look back, after you've been able to acquire a few things over time, you can really start to look at your own collection and say, wow, I really have a great collection here. It doesn't matter how big or small or, how modern or how vintage it is. If you're collecting things that you really enjoy and that you love, that's what makes it a great collection. So, and I think honestly, I think sometimes we get away from that. I think we're so hyper focused on value and, like, how much is this, like, how expensive is this, or, how much does this cost, or how much is this worth, when it should really be about, like, yeah, this is super cool to me. I like this. I don't care if anybody else doesn't like it. To me, it fits my collection. It's really, really cool to me. So.
Sure. Yeah. And there's so many different ways to collect unopened, especially. I mean, there's so many player collectors. There's people that just focus on a team. I mean, some people, such as, I think you and I are kind of similar in we try to focus on 78 and earlier as much as we can, occasionally a 78 pack or a little bit later. But some people just collect oddball packs or error packs. Like, there's all different kinds of ways to do this. And I think it's that's what makes it fun, but it is also maddening. Being in the Facebook, I blame the Facebook group for a lot of my.
We can blame the Facebook group all we want, but I think that there's some cool things that come from that.
Oh, group. It's incredible.
But I don't think anybody else should join. I think we have enough members already.
we don't need any more competition.
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about your role as a consignment director for REA Auctions. So how long have you been with REA, and what exactly do you do as a consignment director?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been with REA for 4 years, for the last 4 years. And, pretty much my duties, simply put, is to go out and get as much good material to go into the auction. And I mean, that's my main focus is, I'm entrusted to build a large portion of the catalog that you see that comes out. So, I really, spend a lot of time, digging up things across the country, whether I use contacts that I've built, past consigners, new inquiries that come in. My sole focus is really about finding great material that will look great in the catalog and people will be very interested in.
So you find not only the unopened items, but a lot of the graded cards and all of these amazing. No, that's awesome. And so on a typical, how does a typical find for you work? Is it generally, are you on the road a lot digging this stuff up, or what's your normal process?
Yeah, I do spend a fair amount of time traveling. I mean, I think that's, part of, being able to amass good stuff for the auction. And I think it's your ability to travel for the right collections and, go meet people where they're at, so that, you can really bring in the material. I mean, we do it in a number of different ways. I mean, I travel, I work the phones, I work past consigners, I work, some of my contacts. Any place that a consignment takes me is pretty much where I'll go. So, I don't concentrate on any one given area, any one method. I mean, at the end of the day, my sole focus is to make the REA catalog look as good as possible in terms of the offering that we have, so that, you know, there's collector excitement and we can just constantly continue to bring top shelf material to the bidding public.
Well, and you've done a great job with this summer catalog. Is just fantastic. Did you want to talk a little bit about some of the summer catalog and what's available? There's some incredible unopened items.
Oh, I mean, like the unopened section is chock full this summer. I think we really outdid ourselves. We were very fortunate to pick up a very significant collection. We worked real hard on it. Great guy, had just an amazing array of some really cool unseen things that he's had in his collection for a long time. I mean, right off the top, I mean, a 60 tops rack pack with Yaz on the front that came directly from the Rosen find is about as good as it's going to get. I mean, that rack pack is, you know, something special. It's one of those things, again, you know, kind of what we talked about earlier is, you know, you try to find those things that are super rare and super difficult to find, and you snatch them up when you see them, because you know that the next time that may be offered might not be, you know, might not be soon enough for you to grab it. So 60 rack pack with Yaz. We have a 72 rack with Yaz and Clemente, which is, again, just a unicorn piece. I mean,
oh my gosh, yeah,
it's amazing. I threw out a pretty aggressive estimate on that piece, and you know, I think people kind of were taken back, like, whoa, I don't know if it'll reach that, but I feel confident. I think this auction is going to end very strongly. So, I mean, we have over 400 lots of unopened material in this current auction, which is, I think, by far our largest offering to date of unopened material. And we have over 3,000 lots. So, you know, even if you're not an unopened guy, I mean, there's going to be something there for everybody, whether it's graded cards, unopened, you know, game used items. We have an incredible 1964 Mickey Mantle game used all-star bat, which is just, you know, it's fresh to the hobby. It's never been offered publicly before. And so that's just another really cool item. We got some really high grade cards, like, you know, a 54 Aaron and an 8.5, you know, nines usually run about 600,000. This is going to probably be in the couple $100,000 range. So I would encourage anybody, go check it out. I mean, it's almost like a museum this time around.
Absolutely. No, and the catalog is amazing. I love getting the catalog in the mail. It's like Christmas morning, just having it just to flip through it, and just most of the stuff is obviously just stuff you only see at the National or in these types of environments. It's literally your auction house, maybe a few other auction houses, and the National, and that's really the only place you see these elite items.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into that catalog. We take a lot of pride in it, but it turns out incredible. It's a coffee table piece, presentation piece, in my opinion. You know, that's a piece somebody would look at while waiting in a doctor's office, right?
Yeah.
They would go through it and just be absolutely amazed at the items that are even available in this hobby. I mean, I think sometimes we take it for granted because we're in the hobby, we're in the business, so we kind of see this stuff. You know, if you go to the National, you participate at any level, but, you know, think about it from an outsider's view of, you know, being able to look at some of these artifacts that actually exist.
Oh yeah, and I think that really relates to unopened, in the sense that I always describe unopened, these are survivors.
Yeah.
Because these should not exist. These things are meant to be opened, and yet these beautiful artifacts are still around, you know, as kind of reminders of, how things used to be. I don't know. To me, it's romantic almost, to me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you think about it, even, you know, just going back to like even the 80s, something as, I still consider that, you know, new, but you know, we're still 40 years removed. But you go back to the 80s, like this stuff held a fraction of value. So it wasn't about value. So nobody kept it unopened because of value, you know, so most people would open these things. And that's why you said, like, they were not produced and made to survive till today. They were meant to be open and enjoyed by kids, you know, by collectors. So yeah, the fact that some of this stuff exists today is a testament to somebody's willpower at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's just chance. I think, you know, like when I think there was a find a while back, those 67 tops rack packs that had mantle on top.
Yep.
I forget the backstory behind that, but it was just, sometimes it's like that, but most of the time these are people that are intentionally keeping this stuff, which to me is pretty cool.
100%.
So I have noticed, I have one other question about Robert Edward, and I wanted you to talk about the encore auctions.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? So how frequently do encore auctions run? Can you talk, basically what is an encore auction and how is it different than the summer or the fall or some of the bigger auctions?
Yeah, our encore auction was born out of the idea that we had, I think before we started, we had two major auctions. We were really running spring and fall. And I think what was happening is there was just too much time in between for guys that had stuff. They wanted to sell it. They wanted to turn their money a little bit more quickly so that they could use those funds for other purchases. And so we added the summer auction, and then that time frame, even though it's just a few months in between each auction, even that created more of a sense of urgency for consigners, or some dealers like to put things into auction so they can turn over their inventory and refresh it a little bit. But it was taking too long in terms of a turnaround, because it does take a moment to produce an auction. So I think the encores were born out of the idea that, hey, look, you have some items that are easier to process. We designed it for ease of use, ease of process, because we knew that the process was going to be a lot faster. So graded cards, authenticated items like single sign baseballs, nothing that was three-dimensional, graded packs, graded boxes, things of that nature. And so we ended up with a schedule of like 7 to 9 times a month. We would run them any month that a major catalog auction was not ending. So we wouldn't do it, I believe, in April. We don't do one in July, and we do not, or yes, July and August actually. And then we don't do one in, I believe, December. So every other month we run an encore auction that allows people the ability to place items and have the same kind of marketing, the same kind of reach, the same kind of bidder engagement without the waiting time. So, we're able, because we're processing things that are not three-dimensional, we're able to take in things a lot closer to the open of the auction and get them processed right away. That way it allows people, hey, look, I'm not waiting 2 or 3 months to get my item in, and I'm not waiting 30 days post-auction to get paid. It's more like I can get my items in, even I think as quick as 15 days before the auction opens, so we can receive items. So it's really, we tried to do it as a way to streamline the process for those things that are a little bit easier to process.
Okay, that's very good information. Yeah, you could see how someone, if you're waiting for one of the bigger, the fall or the spring, that it may be a little while to get the result that you're looking for. So that's good information.
The one other thing I'll just add really quickly
Sure.
About the encore auctions, it provides an opportunity for all types of value ranges. I mean, February of last year, we sold a Jordan PSA 10, because all of the lots open at $10. We sold a Jordan PSA 10 that opened at $10 for $612,000 in that format. So like, it really allows people just more opportunities to take advantage of, turning over items in their collection or their inventories a lot quicker, so they can use that capital for other items for their collection or other inventory for their shows.
Okay. And so generally, are the starting bids all uniform for these auctions?
All uniform for the encore auctions, $10 opening bids. And we've had some tremendous success. I mean, at the end of the day, like, people can get a little nervous. Obviously, $10 bids, they're like, wow, what if this thing really sells low? But we have a tremendous track record now of running these encore auctions, and I'm telling you, things fall right within the price range that they always do. I mean, barring market conditions, of course, a change in market conditions.
Sure. Yeah. I wonder how many bids the Jordan got if it started at $10.
Oh, it's hundreds.
Yeah, I was going to say
hundreds of bids. Yeah.
Some people are just bidding on it because they're like, I could say I bid on the PSA 10 Jordan. Here's my
100%. I mean, and that's another cool way to look at it. Some people, like, they're not going out there buying $600,000 cards, but there's a way they can get a few bids in and say, hey, you know what, I was in on it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And so this is the point in the show that a lot of the unopened junkies will enjoy, because I'm going to ask you if there's any items in your collection that you'd care to show.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to share a few things. So
Okay.
I'll pick up a few. The first one I have here is, I don't know if the glare is reflecting, but 73 cello with Roberto Clemente on the front. Clementi's one of my favorites. I also have a 62 cello with him on the back, but obviously for video purposes, this show is much nicer, but that one's on the front. I picked up this. This is actually from I believe the Rosen find as well. Most of the racks came from that, but a 60 rack with, actually has a Mantle Boyer on the back. I don't know if viewers can see that, but a Mantle Boyer card on the back. Picked that up about a couple of years ago.
Can you show that one again? That is such a cool back. Yeah, or can you show the front of it? Yeah, that is absolutely gorgeous. 1960 tops, Cincinnati Reds team card on top. Wow, that is just incredible.
Yeah, it's in really pristine condition. I mean, to find something from the first year that they did racks in pristine condition is not an easy task. This one I picked up. I hadn't had one of these, and I was fortunate. I was able to be at the right auction at the right time, and I was able to pick up a 71 rack. And again, I think probably the second toughest rack of the 70s. And this has McCovey, which is upside down, and I believe a Tom Seaver strikeout leaders or leader card on the front. So I was really excited to add this one to the collection because it actually filled a hole for me.
Sure. Can you show the header if you don't mind? I always enjoy showing the headers. When I love how big the circle is on the early 70s headers. That is so cool.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Then I'll go to the what I feel is the toughest rack of the 70s, and like literally just picked this one up. This is a 1972 rack, and by far the toughest rack of them all, of the 70s, that is.
Wow.
It has the number one card, the Pittsburgh Pirates team card on it. So
that is absolutely gorgeous. Now, where did you said you recently got this? Where did you get this?
I actually picked this one up at the National.
Okay.
So, fortunate enough to grab it at the National. I guess it's one of those stories of right place, right time. And because I was in the right place, right time, there was a guy that brought it in. He was walking around, had two of them, and a friend and myself, we took one each. So we were able to ascertain that. I took a look at it. I looked at it. There wasn't anything that was pointing to me that said it was not good. Had Steve take a quick look at it, and he confirmed the fact that it was, and both were indeed good, and we were able to strike a deal.
Oh, that's awesome. Those are so incredibly rare. 72 tops. I mean, do you have any 70 tops baseball in your collection?
I have some 70 top cellos. I don't have any 70 tops racks. That's the only rack that I am missing from the 70s. So I have, like I said, a 60 rack, and then 71 rack all the way through 1980. So trying to build a rack run from 60 to 1980, trying to build a cello run from 50 as early as I can get. I'd love to start at 53, but they're just virtually impossible all the way through to 1980.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm sure as the consignment director for REA, I'm sure you see stuff in the catalog, some of the unopened stuff that you're just drives you crazy that you can't bid on it.
Listen, it's almost like eating the sucker with the wrapper on, right? I don't get the full flavor of the unopened, but it's really cool to be able to travel around and find what people have in their collections, because there is some really, really, really cool stuff out there in this country. I mean, people have collected a lot of great items. But yeah, I mean, looking at the catalog, I mean, just looking at our summer catalog, I mean, there's some incredible pieces in our summer catalog that I would just die to have in my collection. But we don't participate, and that's okay. I'll go and find my material elsewhere and buy things privately. and build my collection that way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, well, you have a very, very, very magnificent collection. Some of the stuff that I've seen in the Facebook group is just absolutely so impressive.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, that is one of the great. It's great, but it's maddening because it's like, oh, I need more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I look at a few other collectors in the hobby, and I say the same thing, Brandon.
Oh no, of course.
I wish I had that. I wish I had their stuff, but I think it just gets back to enjoying what you have. I mean, we all collect for individual reasons, and like you said earlier, there are so many ways to collect. I mean, just there's never one way or another that's right. I think it's really up to the individual. I think it's what you enjoy, and the success that you'll have in collecting is collecting stuff that you enjoy, because undoubtedly and invariably other people enjoy the same things.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I think sharing that passion, finding the people that get it, that get what drives you, is one of the most fun parts of this for me, because if you don't share it with people, to me, it's not as much of a hobby. A hobby isn't something you do in isolation. It's something you share with others, I think. And this is
I couldn't agree 100%.
Well, awesome. Well, Calvin, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with tonight about your collection, and really, really enjoyed it. And if anyone out there isn't looking at the REA summer auction, or if you haven't checked out an REA auction, you should absolutely do so. I'm shooting myself in the foot here because I'm bidding in the auction. Hopefully they're don't contact me first, and I will let you know what items not to bid on, please.
Yeah.
But,
as a quick reminder for your viewers, so the auction ends this Sunday, August 14th. Initial bids need to be placed on any lots they want to participate on an extended bidding by 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. And you can view the auction at robertedwardauctions.com. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for listening to the Collecting Vintage Unopened podcast. I'll be back with another episode soon. Take care of each other, everybody.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.